They called it the Ashwood Grand, a century-old hotel built at the edge of a forgotten valley. Stone walls, black timber balconies, and a name that had once stood for elegance. It was the kind of place honeymooners once dreamed of visiting, and where now only silence checked in. When Daniel Cross arrived, rain had already begun to eat the daylight. The mountain road twisted like something alive, pulling him toward the valley. His wipers squealed against the glass, cutting through the fog long enough to reveal the skeletal outline of the hotel. It stood alone, tall and wrong, its upper floors disappearing into the low, gray mist. Daniel wasn't there for leisure. He was a journalist, one of the last who still believed that stories could change people. His assignment was simple: document the reopening of the Ashwood Grand after 30 years of abandonment. But the locals had warned him not to go. They sealed the upper floors for a reason. The old gas station attendant had whispered, refusing to take Daniel's cash until he promised he'd leave before dark. People went missing. Not ghosts, just gone. The floors, they change. Daniel had smiled politely, pocketed his receipt, and driven on. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in stories. The hotel lobby was grand but hollow. Crystal chandeliers still hung, their glass dull with dust. Faded portraits watched him from cracked walls. Stern faces of men who once ran the place, their eyes glinting faintly in the half-light. Behind the reception desk stood a woman, pale, polite, and unsettlingly still. Her name tag read Mara. "You're here for the reopening documentary?" she asked. "Yes, Daniel Cross, freelance journalist. We've been expecting you." Her voice was calm, too calm, as if rehearsed. She slid a key across the counter. Room 313. The number caught his attention. He'd read somewhere that 313 was the old manager's suite, abandoned since 1978 after a guest disappeared there. He almost asked about it, but Mara's expression discouraged curiosity. "You'll find everything you need upstairs," she said softly. "But please, avoid the service elevator after midnight." Daniel chuckled nervously. "Is that a local superstition?" "No," she said, eyes steady. "It's a pattern." The room was cleaner than he expected. White sheets, faint smell of polish, a heavy wardrobe that looked older than the building itself. His camera bag sat at the edge of the bed, and he began setting up his equipment: handheld mic, night lens, tripod. He planned to film a short introduction, a history of the hotel, the reopening, and the rumors surrounding the missing guests. He hit record. "This is Daniel Cross," he began, his voice echoing faintly in the hollow room. "I'm standing in room 313 of the Ashwood Grand, a hotel closed for 3 decades after a series of disappearances. Local legend says the upper floors don't stay still." He smiled at the lens. "Let's find out why." That night, the rain didn't stop. The valley filled with fog until even the mountains disappeared. The hotel's halls, lined with faded carpets and peeling wallpaper, seemed to breathe. Daniel wandered with his camera. The silence had texture, a soft hum beneath the walls, as if machinery deep inside the building was still running. He passed doors that were locked, doors that were missing numbers, and one door that had no handle at all. When he reached the elevator, he pressed the up button. The light flickered. It opened slowly, revealing a tarnished brass interior that smelled faintly of metal and rot. He pressed 4. The elevator groaned, and then stopped halfway. The light went out. Daniel staggered backward, dropping his camera. The sound of the rain outside was gone. Even the smell of damp carpet had changed, replaced by something sweet and decayed, like flowers left too long in water. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. "You shouldn't have used the elevator." It was Mara, but her face was wrong, stretched, pale, the way reflections look in warped glass. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You said avoid it after midnight," he stammered. "It's not even. Time doesn't work here," she whispered. "Not on every floor." Mara's words clung to him long after she vanished down the hall. "Time doesn't work here." Daniel tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked under the weight of the silence. His camera, still recording, caught the faint hiss of static, though he hadn't noticed. Every 30 seconds, the footage flickered, showing frames of something behind him. A second silhouette that wasn't there. He decided to leave the footage running. Documentation was safety. Facts could be replayed. The mind, however, could lie. When he tried to find the main exit, he discovered that the grand oak doors he'd entered through were now bricked shut. Smooth, fresh mortar, as if they'd never been doors at all. The chandeliers were still swaying, but slower now, almost synchronized with the beating of his heart. He turned to the reception counter. Where Mara had stood, there was now only an old ledger, thick with dust. The pages were filled with names, guests who had checked in. He turned to the final entry. It read, Daniel Cross, room 313. Checked in, 8:42 p.m. Checked out, pending. He stepped back, pulse racing. His logical mind fought to explain it. Maybe Mara had written it earlier, maybe the management was playing a trick to impress journalists. But the way the ink shimmered, it looked fresh. The lobby clock struck 9 times, though the second hand wasn't moving. Somewhere upstairs, a door slammed. He climbed the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Each step creaked like a whisper. On the second floor, the air was colder. The hallway lights flickered, and the carpet squished faintly under his shoes as if soaked. At the far end, one door was open, room 217. He hesitated, then entered. The room was empty, except for the typewriter sitting on the desk. A single page was rolled into it, half-typed. He leaned closer. The words read, He is here again. Different name. Same eyes. Daniel froze. The typewriter clicked once on its own. A single letter appeared at the end of the line. D. He backed away, heart pounding. The air felt heavy, charged, like before a storm. The wallpaper began to peel slightly, revealing faint writing underneath. A scrawl of dozens of names, each crossed out violently. He turned to leave, but the hallway was gone. In its place was a corridor that stretched far beyond the hotel's layout. No doors, no windows. Only an unending path lined with faded floral wallpaper that pulsed faintly, as if something alive was pressing from behind. He walked, and walked. His footsteps echoed without rhythm. Eventually, he saw a shape, a person standing far ahead, motionless. He called out, Hello, I'm looking for the exit. The figure didn't move. As he got closer, he realized it was himself. Standing still, staring back. The duplicate Daniel blinked, but only once, and then vanished, leaving behind a faint smell of ozone. He staggered backward, gasping. The corridor rippled, like heat rising from asphalt, and suddenly he was back at the reception desk. The ledger was gone. In its place was his camera sitting upright, recording. He played the footage. For several minutes, it showed him walking the endless corridor. Then, at the end, the lens tilted, catching a reflection in the mirror at the hallway's turn. Not one reflection. Six versions of Daniel, each standing in a different hallway, each holding a camera. He tried to steady his breathing. There had to be an explanation. Sleep deprivation, gas leaks, hallucinations caused by mold. He found himself muttering, There's a reason. There's always a reason. Then, a voice answered, You're right. There is. He spun around. At the far end of the lobby, a man was standing. Tall, thin, dressed in the black uniform of a 1930s concierge. His name tag said, Mr. Hale. Your hotel staff? Daniel asked. In a manner of speaking, Hale replied. His smile didn't move his eyes. I maintain the registry. He gestured toward a smaller ledger Daniel hadn't noticed before. The pages were blank, except for one note in delicate handwriting. When a guest forgets to leave, the floor remembers for them. What does that mean? Daniel asked. You'll understand, Hale said softly. When the floor changes for you, the lights flickered again. The chandelier stilled. When the bulbs came back to life, Hale was gone. But where he had stood, the floorboards had shifted, revealing a narrow stairwell leading down into darkness. Daniel hesitated. The rational part of him screamed not to go. But the journalist in him, the one who always followed the trail, couldn't stop. He switched his camera to infrared and descended. Each step groaned. The air grew damp and cold. At the bottom, he found another hallway. No signs, no rooms, only numbered doors with painted-over plaques. The walls were concrete again, lined with faint moisture. He tried one of the doors. It opened easily. Inside was a small chamber, a chair, a real projector, and a single roll of film labeled 1978 Management Recording. He set up the projector, hands trembling. The film crackled to life, spilling pale light across the walls. It showed the hotel staff, smiling, shaking hands, standing in front of a group of guests during what looked like an early reopening ceremony. Mara was among them, younger, human,